I'm Sita Fay, Director of External Affairs.
I'm Jamie Buck, Director of Innovation.
This is Fundamental, the podcast from NYSIF, the organization at the intersection of finance, health, business, and labor in New York. Jamie, you're in trouble. HR is here.
Oh, boy.
Today we have Lauren Fisher and Tiffany Parker from our Human Resources Department. Lauren is Deputy Director of Administration, and Tiffany is the Assistant Director for Workforce Engagement and Development at NYSIF. We're really excited to have Lauren and Tiffany here with us today.
It's so great to have you both here. Hopefully I do stay out of trouble. Thank you, Sita. And I'd like to introduce Tiffany Parker. Tiffany is the Assistant Director of Workforce Engagement and Development here at NYSIF, where she develops and conducts programs to nurture in-house talent for our entire organization. And we're looking forward to a really nice dialogue here this afternoon. Thank you both for being here.
It's exciting.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
for having
us.
us.
Lauren and Tiffany are responsible for a lot of what keeps our workforce moving here at NYSIF. We take care of our policyholders and our employees and their workers, but who takes care of our employees inside NYSIF? Lauren and Tiffany and the entire HR team. They're here today to tell us a little bit more about who they are, what they do, and why working at NYSIF should be one of your first choices in New York State government.
So with that being said, I think it would be a good start to the conversation. Tiffany and Lauren, if you can maybe just frame a little bit for us, both of your roles.
Sure. Thanks, Jamie. I currently serve as the Deputy Director of Administration, where I am responsible for all things HR. And I recently have taken over the Property Services team. So I have a lot of admin under my belt. I have been with NYSIF for 5 years, and I originally was hired to be the Director of Human Capital to focus on HR, talent management, and, a bunch of other initiatives. My role has certainly grown and changed a lot over 5 years. When I first started here in June of 21, it was right when we were returning the workforce to work after the pandemic. So kind of right off the bat, I was in deep with, employees and, trying to make them feel safe in the workplace. And now that that has calmed down, we've been able to spend a good couple of years focusing on expanding HR's mission here at NYSIF.
And I joined NYSIF in 2023. Lauren brought me on board with a targeted focus mainly on recruitment, but also employee engagement activities. Came on board, we surveyed the employees to get an assessment of what the needs were, what were the desires and wants for professional development, especially for our employees. And so working in my role, I'm working very closely with our HR team, our DEI team, just to make sure that we're inclusive and we're really highlighting and capturing our strategic goals as well, and having a good focus on internal employee resources with our career mobility unit, and also speaking to employees when they're leaving the agency through exit interviews, and then analyzing that feedback that we're getting so we can make changes accordingly.
Like you mentioned, the first step is how do we recruit staff to come work at NYSIF? As Tiffany mentioned, when she was first hired, it was to be in the role of being a recruiter for the agency. Prior to 2023, we were not at any career fairs or visiting high schools or anything like that. We were just relying on people finding us on State Jobs website. And so we have a dedicated recruitment team that over the last 3 years, we have been to several hundred career fairs. And I just have to share this stat. We have engaged with over 28,000 people at our events. We are out there letting people know about NYSIF. And as a result of that, we have really been able to grow our workforce with a very diverse set of individuals that we didn't have before.
That's outstanding. Kind of a continuation to Sita's question. There's a onboarding process and there's efforts that you're making as a team to find the right kind of fit for NYSIF employees. Talk a little bit about then what happens from a retention standpoint. What are the things that help keep people who come on to the organization? What do we do that's maybe a differentiator in these types of roles to keep people at NYSIF?
One of the things that I have found in state government is that oftentimes, people start with an agency and they can be forgotten about, right? Because if they don't have the opportunity to grow professionally or take exams or, get promoted, they can be kind of stuck where they are. And so Tiffany has created an internal career mobility unit. So Tiffany, I'll ask you to speak to that because that's your thing.
Career mobility has been great. When we first started out, the goal was to survey the agency to see what were the needs. One of the most important needs that most people identified was learning how to navigate civil service. When you're coming on board, especially through the HELPS program, we have a lot of people coming into state service without taking an exam. And once they get in here, they're not sure, okay, how do I advance? How do I mobilize? I'm in state service. So we created the career mobility unit. And so people have a resource for guidance on how civil service works, what exams to take, how the transfer laws can be applicable to them, how they can navigate within within NYSIF or just the state in totality. But also another initiative that we started recently last fall was our new employee engagement. So what we've been doing now is we're getting employees an opportunity to settle into their roles. And at the 3-month anniversary, we invite them to an overview of NYSIF and also just a brief overview of how they can navigate and understand the civil service system, taking exams and so forth. So that's been great because it gives people some information so they don't feel lost when they get here, which is typically what happens when you start and you're just kind of left alone to figure things out after you get trained in your role. But here we're allowing you to get some more information as to how the agency works and how civil service operates as well.
And I just have to jump in here because I think Tiffany is really underselling her work on career mobility. So Tiffany has created this program where if you are an employee and you want somebody to take a look at your resume, Tiffany and her team will sit down with you. If you want to do a mock interview instead of having to ask your husband or spouse or whoever to practice with you the night before an interview, Tiffany and her team will sit down and help you prepare for an interview. And then also she offers a variety of courses just to help people, get the skills that they need to continue to grow and advance. And all of it is voluntary, but even with it being voluntary, the engagement we could have never predicted the engagement that we would have had from employees.
So we offer, thank you, Lauren. I do kind of forget about all the work that we're actually doing, but we do one topic a month of professional development, soft skills topics. So for right now, like this month, we're doing time management skills and techniques that people can apply for their professional needs. Next month, we're doing something on networking. And then in May, we're also advertising emotional intelligence in the workplace. And our attendance averages about 53 employees per class twice a month. So it's really grown since we started. It's been about 2 years and it's growing successfully. We also get regular feedback from the employees after every time we do a workshop. And that in turn has led people to now come to us as a resource for interview preparedness, mock interviews, or resume review, or just helping them navigate, tired in this particular role. I think I've done as much as I can. What else can I do? So it has really been a benefit to the employees, and I'm happy that people are utilizing us.
It's fantastic. Well, one of the things I was just thinking about when you're talking through that, the feedback that you're gathering from conducting those workshops, and then are you both creating the next set of topics? Are you getting information from people saying, I would like to see, or is it kind of a combination of those things? Yeah.
Yes, primarily from the feedback from what would they like to see. Every time we do a course, we get the feedback, and then we do another survey at the end of each quarter, as you would put it, to see, okay, how are things going? What we've done so far? What would you like to see next?
I'm really excited to talk about the mentorship program. Maybe because you've roped me into it twice, and I shouldn't say rope me in. I'm really excited to do it. It has been a fantastic experience for me to meet other people that are within our organization and to partner with them and the entire network that I'm able to tap into with that. It has been incredible to be a mentor. I really enjoy the time with the mentees, and I think there's a lot of cross collaboration and relationships there. Tell us a little bit about the mentorship program, what the thinking was behind it here at NYSIF, and how our employees are able to tap into this resource that they may or may not know about.
Absolutely. And thank you, Sita. We really appreciate you continuing to participate in being a great mentor. So
you're going to get asked again.
Have you done it yet?
It's on the list.
It's on the list. Jamie's up next,
okay,
just to be clear.
Jamie's up next. So a couple departments in NYSIF have had their own in-house mentoring program. The claims department has a mentoring program where they, take a new employee and match them up with, somebody else not within their chain of command for the duration of their traineeship, just to, help them kind of understand the ropes of being in claims.
Like a buddy system.
A buddy system. Yeah. And we had been hearing that and thinking about how successful that was. But then we thought, how can we grow this to the entire agency, right? We can't ask every single department to develop a mentoring program, right? So in 2023, we piloted a mentoring program just in the admin department, right? And so what we did is we teamed up people on, I call it different sides of the house, right? So a property services team member was paired up with somebody from HR, a procurement person was paired up with somebody from HR, right? So what we found from that is people, even in my department, didn't know what their coworker sitting next to them was doing. And so then we thought, well, this is probably what people think at a greater level within NYSIF, right? So if you don't interact with people from other departments, you probably have not a great understanding of what their role is and why their role is important at NYSIF. So the goal of the mentoring program is, we match people from different departments. And when you apply to be in the mentoring program, you indicate kind of how you're looking to grow. So I'm looking to grow into a supervisor role. I'm looking to work on my public speaking, just looking to get a better understanding of X, Y, and Z. So then we match you with mentors who apply and say, these are the skills that I can offer. And I think it's really open up employees to kind of breaking down the silos between departments. And now people in other departments. And I think sometimes it leads to people saying, hey, I really like what that department is doing. And I think I have the skill set to apply for a position there.
A success story that is not sitting in the room with us today, but I would love to highlight for the organization is you had paired Melissa Jensen, a woman on our executive team, with Honesty from Claims. And through that pairing and partnership where Melissa and Honesty may or may not have interacted at the different levels they were at, it was really the driving force behind creating the Employee Appreciation Network. We have this incredible thing in communications and customer service where we're able to highlight employees when policyholders and injured workers talk about the great service they've had, but we have all of these other staff members here at NYSIF that offer what typically is thought of as back of the house services. And so Honesty and Melissa's pairing help bring together something that's benefiting multiple employees at NYSIF. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah. What's incredible about that is that my understanding is it was just an idea that Honesty had, right? And she pitched it to Melissa, and through the mentoring program, Melissa gave her the opportunity to present this idea to the executive team, and they were all for it. And now Honesty is off and running with it, right? And it has given, instead of having to, find somebody's supervisor and say, hey, Tiffany was really great today. She really helped me out with something. Now you can email it to this Employee Appreciation Network, and they're making sure that the employee is getting the kudos, their supervisor is getting the kudos. I think it's done a lot to remind employees who don't interact with external customers that, their work is still valued and people are noting when they do a good job.
March is Employee Appreciation Month, and we're excited to talk about that.
Lauren and Tiffany, we've covered a lot of things so far about bringing people into NYSIF, supporting them, working on efforts for retention. And I think, Lauren, it feeds from your response about kind of community and making the environments somewhere where it's full support, right? The example that we gave, that Sita shared with Honesty. Talk about some of the resource groups that we have here and how they support the broader NYSIF employee community.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. So one of the great things that we've done since I've been here is we hired our first Chief Diversity Officer, and under the DEI team, actually with Sita's help, I noticed that she's not mentioning she was a big part of establishing these ERGs when she got here. So we have established these employee resource groups. We have 3 of them. Be Well, which is focused on health and wellness. We have a Young Professionals Network, and then our most recent one is a veterans group. So we don't limit this to, only young professionals or only veterans or, only people interested being, having a healthier lifestyle. Anybody who wants to join a group and have a community and kind of share ideas. I'm actually going to ask Tiffany. She was head of the Be Well group for the first 2 years that it was active, and they have quite a few accomplishments.
Yeah, Be Well was our first inaugural ERGs. It was exciting to get members of the agency from all over the state together to talk about what resources we can bring to the agency, as well as help one another with information for our health and wellness. And so we were able to get a few different items off the ground and running. We started the lending library, which if you've seen the different break rooms throughout NYSIF locations, there's a bookshelf with books that employees can place on the shelves for anyone to grab and enjoy. I think there's also puzzles and games. So when you're taking a break, you have something else to ease your mind and take a break from work. We also established a Be Well cookbook for the agency, and we worked with our communications department to get that up and running. It was really well received, and employees all contributed their favorite recipes, healthier versions of it. I think we're still going to add to that, I believe. So it's something that can be ongoing. And we also did an agency-wide virtual blood drive, which was very successful. And we started a walk and talk in our Melville office. A lot of people like to get out, get their steps in, get exercise in, right? So it's a good way to meet other employees and get together and walk and also share what they're doing as well. So it's been a good kickstart, I think, to that employee engagement aspect of the ERGs as well.
What kind of executive participation do you have in ERGs, and who joins? Is it folks from the claims department, actuary? What have you seen with the ERGs that you've launched so far?
It's been everyone from all different departments. We've had representation from every NYSIF location and region, and everyone from your underwriters to HR specialists, to equal opportunity specialists. So it's not focused on just one particular area of employees. And we do always have executive backing. Each ERG group has an executive sponsor. So that's always helpful.
Are there other ones on the horizon that we're thinking about?
The next ERG that we are planning to launch this year will be focused on women in the workplace. And again, not just open to women in the workplace, it's open to anybody who wants to support women in the workplace. Same with all of our other ERGs.
What about some of the roadmap? Like you talked about how it's taking you time, but you clearly have a vision for your org.
It's interesting, Jamie, because I didn't even realize until recently what I was developing here, what I was building. But now I think there is a really clear focus on what I've been developing my staff to do. And that's, first step, how do you find staff, which we talked about? How do you retain staff, which we talked about? And then the last piece is how do you prepare departments and staff for what's next? So when I talk about that, that's for departments, succession planning and also knowledge transfer, right? So if somebody walks out the door, does your team know how to fill in the gaps, right? And then, of course, we have a really dedicated benefits team that help employees get ready when they're planning to retire. So we try to cover. It's not just HR meets you on day one and we forget about you, right? We are trying to change kind of the stigma around HR and, remind people that we are there to help them grow and develop for the entirety of their career, because it shouldn't just stop when you finish your traineeship.
Yeah, if I could just also add, I think one of the great things I've appreciated about NYSIF is that, especially with Lauren and the administration, is they're always asking what's missing, what can we do better, and look to fill in the gaps where that exists. And I appreciate it's that desire to do more for the agency and the employees that drives all of our successes to this point. So it's been great to be on the ground level, seeing things come to fruition with their backing and support.
And I will say, we have had growing pains, right? Like any organization, the admin department has grown tremendously since I got here 5 years ago, and not all of it has worked as well as we wanted it to. But then what we've talked about today has worked far beyond kind of what we ever could have imagined. And so I do ask what's missing.
Yeah.
And then
with the whiteboard in the office and...
They laugh at me, but
there are a lot of whiteboards in admin. Jamie, I don't know what it looks like in the White Plains office where you are, but I'll walk around Albany 15 and I see a lot of whiteboards and they all seem to belong to the admin team.
We are.
Always brainstorming.
We are really big on, and the other thing, so I ask what's missing, but then also what's next. So
what's next,
even though everybody has a full plate of work, what's next? What are we going to do next? One of the reasons that I have been able to do all of these things that we're talking about today is thanks to the support of Gaurav. Since he has been executive director, we have been able to grow our workforce by over 300 FTEs, which, during COVID, that is an incredible feat. And 92% of our workforce is unionized, and with Gaurav's guidance, we have been able to develop really positive relationships with the unions, and we have been able to partner with them on a lot of really wonderful things.
So one thing I appreciate with NYSIF, as much as we're engaged in recruitment efforts and being at the career fairs and letting people know how great it is to work, we also value employees and we try to retain them and promote where we see opportunities. And so it's just great to see. And I just think it's valuable to show that we're not just looking to get you in, we want to keep you and we want to help you grow your career as well, which is why we have all of these resources at your disposal so you can grow and promote within the agency.
Yeah. And with that, 1,100 people have been hired, right? Some of that is backfilling people as they left. But, our workforce has grown in 5 years. And that's a testament to we believe in our departments. We believe in the work that they're doing. And we are giving them the resources to be successful.
Well, one of the things that I really appreciate here at NYSIF is when I'm looking to meet a need, a lot of times my team, the communications and marketing aspect of my portfolio is trying to meet needs internally and externally. And we've really tried to develop talent in-house. And I remember sitting down with you, Lauren, and saying, I want to develop this talent in-house. I see the value of having this talent in-house. Help me figure out the path forward to do this. And I was met with, yes, we can do that, and you sending members of your team over to figure out how we could make that work. It was really exciting. What is interesting about competing with the private sector ultimately is here at NYSIF, we're constantly competing with the private sector. We're competing with investment staff, actuarial, some very specialized roles here. And within the structure of the civil service system, we have a place for people that specialize in underwriting, actuary, finance, counsel's office. But in marketing and communications, I was really looking for some people that had outside experience. And how do we bring them into state government and do that? Found a lot of support here for making that marketing communications team expand and grow to meet the needs of our business and meet the needs of our employees as well.
One of the other things that we didn't touch on, there are so many things we could talk about. So a couple of years ago, our chief actuary came to us with concerns about, our compensation, that it is very difficult to compete with the private sector for actuarials, right? From that conversation, we developed an actuarial reimbursement program. So similar to the private sector, our employees who are sitting for actuarial exams, they get, we pay for them to take the exams and we give them study time at work, which only helps them grow professionally as well. So any opportunity we have to continue to make ourselves more competitive, we are taking it. And like you mentioned, Sita, we do try to say yes as often as we can. Sometimes we have to say no. Not everything is doable, but my team tries really hard to get to yes where we can.
One of the things I want to go back to in how we find, your team was instrumental in a partnership that we launched with SUNY, essentially committing to hiring 100 interns. Talk about that partnership that has just officially gotten off the ground and what we've done. A lot of that goes with the career mobility, going to the career fairs, but formalizing this partnership with SUNY is something we're going to explore more on a later episode. But tell us about that and what that looks like right now in its current state.
Yeah, we were really excited that SUNY wanted to partner with us. So it's just been a few months, but we have committed to hiring 100 student interns through SUNY. And so just even over the past couple of months, we've engaged with several hundred students on SUNY campuses across the state, right? So from Buffalo all the way out to Long Island, if there is a SUNY in your area, we are there looking for an opportunity to engage with students. And one of the great things about our internship program, which we didn't talk about, but just very briefly, we launched that formally in 2023. And we've hired over 140 student assistants, and many of them have then been converted into permanent employment. So it's been a feeder program for us. The IT and legal departments have hired probably the most student interns into permanent positions, but it's been a really great way for students who, aren't really sure maybe what they want to do. They get an internship while they're in school, and then they decide they like it here and we like them. And we never could have imagined that we would have had that much success. And that's why we have no concern about hiring 100 SUNY students at NYSIF.
That's excellent.
So, Tiffany, Kim Hill was one of our first guests on our podcast,
Yes,
and she
I remember.
talked a little bit about Executive Order 31. Kim Hill was the first Chief Disability Officer for the state. We have a Chief Diversity Officer. Can you talk a little bit about DEIA and what that really means here at NYSIF?
When it comes to being inclusive and accessible, NYSIF really is championing the way to make sure that we're meeting New Yorkers where they're at. Right, being able to employ and retain individuals regardless of any perceived or known disabilities. And so our DEI team has grown instrumentally in making sure that they're out there engaging organizations and individuals to let them know that we're an inclusive agency. We've been working very closely with different entities such as SUNY Buffalo to make sure that our buildings and locations are accessible to employees and looking to make improvements where we can. We've also been working with the CDO's office and making sure that we're providing internship opportunities to individuals that may have a disability as well. We currently have 2 individuals through the Inclusive Partnership Program right now. So we're excited about making sure that we're a pathway for individuals looking to get into state service. So we've been growing and doing quite well in that regard.
And those individuals are interns.
Yes.
So when I started here, I mentioned that we have hired our first Chief Diversity Officer since I've been here. And we gave this a lot of thought about how we wanted the DEI team to be structured and how is it going to be successful. And all of the feedback we got from people externally was that in order for it to be successful, it has to be ingrained throughout the agency, right? It cannot just be another department, and it can't be a check the box exercise. So all of the things we've talked about today are all DEI, right? Even though, I might not say specifically, all of it is focused on having a diverse workforce, having equity, and making sure we are inclusive and accessible.
Fundamental features guests who bring a different wealth of experience and expertise to the podcast.
We go further by exploring the fundamental principles that motivate each person to reveal who they are.
Now let's get to the heart of the matter, the fundamentals. Lauren, can you talk to us about a fundamental principle that guides you?
For me, it is humility. And by that, I mean, it is really important to be able to admit when you're wrong. And I have found throughout my career that there are people who never want to say that they're wrong. And being wrong is not a weakness, it's a strength, right? And I think that one of the things I strive to do with my employees, and hopefully Tiffany can attest to that, is I remind them that I will support them even when they're wrong. You have to make mistakes and you have to grow, and you have to be okay with making mistakes and admitting to it.
I like that answer.
That's true.
Yeah. And I mean, the answer makes a lot of sense for so many reasons. And you talked about it kind of throughout the discussion here this afternoon, because when you talked about you trying things and you articulated well, like some things didn't always work, and that's all right. So you're creating that space for your teams and your employees. So that's awesome.
Tiffany, what's your fundamental principle?
I thought about the correct word, and I would say resourcefulness. One phrase that I like to go by in terms of my own actions is, if you see a need, do the deed, right? And so as we grow, we get into adulthood and we're kind of thrown into learning and figuring things out for ourselves. And we all can benefit from learning or getting information that we didn't know we needed, right? And so in my role, I attempt to try, and also my personal life, to be a resource to individuals through working in HR, career mobility. My goal is to provide employees with information so that they can make the best decision for themselves moving forward. And so that's a guiding light. I want to be a resource to individuals. That's a fundamental subscribe to.
Appreciate that.
On the theme of mentorship, we'd like to hear from both of you individually. Who's been a mentor to you, and how did they inform who you are and how you lead today?
So prior to working at NYSIF, I worked for the Division of Budget for 6 years, and DOB can be a very difficult place to work because the hours are very difficult. Budget season is very difficult. And you have to be kind of on all the time and be able to think critically and make decisions at 1 o'clock in the morning if you need to. And so I had the opportunity to work for a couple of really strong women, kind of right when I was starting my career, who, helped guide me and remind me of the challenges that come with, being a woman in the workforce, right? Getting people to take you seriously, but just, reminding me that my voice and opinion matters, and I should always make sure it's heard.
This wasn't planned, but it's very similar. I've also had really strong female role models in my professional career prior to NYSIF, and also currently in my position here at NYSIF. And one particular characteristic that's been synonymous with all of them is this transparency and direct communication and honesty, providing critical feedback when there are mistakes or just support that's needed, and also just reminding myself to think outside the box, push the limits, ask the questions. Even if you're told no, at least you made the effort. And so that's been very helpful in my career, and I'm appreciative of that.
Rock stars. This is a fantastic conversation here this afternoon. We appreciate the time. Hopefully have you back on the podcast, but really thank you for the openness and just sharing all the great things that you both do and your teams do to support our wonderful NYSIF employees. So we'll look forward to getting this podcast out and people hearing all the good things you're doing.
Come work for NYSIF.
It's great.
This is Fundamental, the podcast from NYSIF.